Hello, my name is Giselle Lopez, and my presentation is about the bacteria Chlamydia trachomatis. So what is Chlamydia trachomatis? Chlamydia trachomatis is a commonly sexually transmitted disease that is caused by bacteria in which most individuals do not show any symptoms or signs which can lead to serious health problems if it is left untreated. It is also transmitted through vaginal, oral, and/or anal sex. The key characteristics of Chlamydia trachomatis is that it is an opportunistic pathogen in the genital tract, respiratory tract, and conjunctiva. This microorganism is dependent on the human gastrointestinal tract, and it is part of the family Chlamydiaceae. It is a group of obligate intercellular organisms that have tiny genomes and are gram-negative. Chlamydia trachomatis is classified into cervivores and two human biovores, trachoma and granuloma venereum, which are dominated by the nature of disease that they cause. Chlamydia trachomatis is also a heterotroph that feeds off the host cell and does damage to it. It needs to reproduce inside the host cell because it does not have any of its own metabolizing enzymes, and it binds to the host cells to require the involvement of several bacterial ligands and host receptors. The transition of Chlamydia trachomatis transitions to the reticulate body in a few hours after infection, and early genes are transcribed in the body. Chlamydia trachomatis binds to the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. So the environment of Chlamydia trachomatis. It can only exist and reproduce inside the cell of its host because it doesn't have its own metabolizing enzymes. The intracellular environment releases nuanced arms raised between both the host and pathogens. The pathogen utilizes its arsenal of effectors to initiate an intercellular function and regulate the host immune response. So 61% of women do not show any symptoms, therefore 39% of them do show symptoms. On the other hand, 68% of men do not show symptoms, and 32% of them do show symptoms. The infectious dose is yet unknown, but I found a study in animals that shows that the infective dose was 48. So the case mortality rate of Chlamydia trachomatis was 15 to 20% before there were any antibiotics to treat it. Now the case fatality rate is less than 1% when it is properly treated. Several possibility virulence elements have been recognized, such as polymorphic outer membrane autotransporter family of proteins, the putative immense cytotoxin, stress response proteins, type 3 secretion effectors, or other regulatory elements generated by the cryptic plasmid. So the likely host of Chlamydia trachomatis is mostly women, as they are at higher risk for it. I found a study, and the study was conducted and found the lifetime risk, which shows that 14% was for white women, and then 64.9% for non-Hispanic Black women, and 32.6% for Hispanic women. The conclusion of the study showed that 60% of non-Hispanic Black women had at least one infection diagnosed by the time they turned 34. This risk is almost 5 times higher than non-Hispanic white women, so that shows a lot. And if you can see on this graph on the right, it shows that Black people are more at risk for chlamydia. So the seriousness, the symptoms, and the diagnosis for Chlamydia trachomatis. So mild and asymptomatic episodes of pelvic inflammatory disease that are not recognizable or treated may result in ectopic pregnancy, tubal factor, infertility, and chronic pelvic pain. The most common symptoms for women are usually abnormal vaginal discharge and endocervical mucus. All other symptoms include mid-cycle bleeding, abdominal pain, and dysuria, painful urination in both men and women, discharge from the genitals, painful sexual intercourse, and testicular pain for men. Signs of chlamydia are cervical ectopy, fundal tenderness, cervical motion tenderness, cervical friability, and endocervical mucopus, and adnexal tenderness. In order to diagnose Chlamydia trachomatis, screening and diagnosis are done by urine and swab testing from the discharge. So, how chlamydia is transmitted. Chlamydia is usually transmitted through sexual behaviors, as I mentioned before, through oral, vaginal, and anal sex. And your risks are higher if you have multiple sexual partners, you're inconsistent with barrier birth control, such as condom use, and if you're a younger age, you're more at risk for chlamydia. So how to avoid, treat, and manage chlamydia. So antibiotics are used to treat chlamydia trachomatis, in which they cross host membranes and are active intercellularly. These antibiotics target protein biosynthesis by interacting with the 50 and 30S ribosomal subunits. Doxycycline is a type of antibiotic that is recommended for non-pregnant adolescents and adults for 7 days straight, or azithromycin in a single dose. For pregnant women, azithromycin is recommended as a first choice, following amoxicillin as an alternative. So to prevent chlamydia, you should always use a condom. You should limit your number of sexual partners, get regularly tested and screened, and avoid douching, and use other barrier methods of contraception, such as male or female condoms. So in conclusion, chlamydia trachomatis is a sexually transmitted disease that can cause and lead to serious health problems if it goes untreated. That's why it is important to get regularly screened. And symptoms include discharge in both men and women, painful urination, painful sexual intercourse, testicular pain in men, endocervical mucopus, mid-cycle bleeding, abdominal pain, and dysuria. This bacteria also seems to infect and have more effects on women. And one can prevent chlamydia trachomatis, as I mentioned before, by using condoms. It is crucially important to use condoms and limit one number's sexual partners. You should always get regularly screened and avoid douching. Using condom does not it does not protect you 100%. It does reduce the chances, but it does not eliminate the risk of infection. And these are my references. Thank you.